I always loved Laughlin.
I know you've been there a lot. Well, Facebook, Paul Lyons' fans and all your friends on your Facebook, Paul, and on my page. I don't, like this whole comic spot is to vet out veterans of comedy. And today, that's what we got. We got somebody here who has decades of experience. Decades, you guys. And
Unbelievable. I don't know how you do it, Linda.
I know, right? I must be a nice person or something.
Yeah.
You've written a book, a bestseller. You've written articles in magazines and.
Oh, you mean that book? You mean the Carpe Diem Mañana book?
Carpe Diem Mañana.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I've read the book. I love the book. You've been around the world with your comedy. You're a headliner. You're in the moment. You're authentic. You relate to everybody. You take everybody on your journey with you. Your comedy is so inclusive. And you're the guy that taught me how to be authentic.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it only took me about 15 years.
Welcome to Comic Spot. How are you doing over there in Philly, my favorite city?
Well, I love it here. Still not able to perform. I have my first date lined up on July 11th. I'll be going to rural Pennsylvania and doing an outside. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to White Plain, New York, and I'm doing something in an outside venue. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm very excited.
Awesome.
It's been about 3 months since I performed. So, yeah.
Wonderful. White Plains is pretty close to where I lived up there in Ardsley.
Yes. I'm following your footsteps.
I wouldn't do it if I was you.
Yeah. I'm bringing a bat with me. I'm bringing a bat with me to break somebody's knees. You know who that is.
I would love to know, because you've been my landlord, you've been my roommate, you've been my personal friend who's talked me off many a psychological ledge with your sanity that you, as a humanitarian, give out freely. I would love to know how you got started and take me back to the very beginning of your funny roots.
Well, I want to know who told you it was free. I thought I was getting paid all this time.
It's in the mail.
My comedy roots are with my family. I have 6 brothers. We were all cut ups. We were tease each other. And my mom and my dad had a terrific sense of humor. And I come from a small town, Garrett Hill. Everybody had a sense of humor. So humor was just, how you got by. And most of it was really good natured. There were Irish, Italians, blacks, Jews, and it was all just good natured comedy. So it all started in a small town, and with everyone having a good sense of humor.
What was it like the very first time you got up on stage? What was that like for you?
Very exciting. I was in 11th grade, and my teacher said, "Mr. Lyons," he goes, "Do you write jokes?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Why don't you come in tomorrow and give us some of your jokes?" Because he knew I was a funny kid, and I had just started writing jokes. So, and that night, knowing I had my first audience, I stayed up till about 2 a.m, writing more material and more material. So I had about probably 6 jokes that I'd already written. That night I wrote 20 minutes, which, as we know, dwindled down to maybe 30 seconds. But the class had to hear the whole. But anyway, my first few jokes worked great, and that's all I needed. Once I knew that they got laughs, and then all my new stuff, it didn't go over that well. But he stopped me. He said, "Hey, all we need is one joke." And I go, "One joke for what?" he goes, my friend works on the Mike Douglas show. He's the cameraman. Next week they're doing the next comedian of Philadelphia. They want to get somebody out of the audience with one joke and, and put them on. So he brought me to the Mike Douglas show. I was 16 years old.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then when you went back to school, did the kids find out?
So my first gig, I got a TV show from my first gig.
Jeez, Paul, you're an avid you're always learning. You're always growing and trying new things. And, I went and took a comedy class at the Comedy Collective with Vince Valentine, and you co-taught segments of that and paired up with people to help them. With as many years in comedy as you have, why do you give a darn about younger comics?
Oh, because one is I remember how frightening it is, and also just because I feel like I have something to give now, so it just feels great. It feels great to see somebody in the very beginning and to see what's going to stand out about them, and have them realize that, And the other thing I love is when people have been doing it for a while, they often can get into a certain way of doing it, where when you're new, you're really using your own natural funniness, and quite often you're doing very unique stuff because you're not making your living at it. You're not feeling as if, oh, I got to do but my set that works all the time so that I can come back and get paid. So when you're new, you kind of have nothing to lose, and I love that. People really have very often begin with the most unique stuff, and then that can be whittled out of them. So I try to assure them, stay with what's unique to you. Don't put together a quick 20 minutes that works so you can get middle work when it's not really uniquely you. And I teach for them to remind myself to go deeper and to be more authentic. That's how I got to be more authentic, was by teaching.
I remember doing a set on the graduation show for the Comedy Collective, and on the ride back home, because you were my landlord, you said, have you ever thought about what it is to be authentic? And I remember hearing that like a brick fell on my head and my heart, and I went, and I think I was sad for 2 weeks before I got ready to actually think about being authentic. And that was the biggest gift you ever gave me, ever.
Well, I didn't mean to derail you for 2 weeks.
It's cool. I needed to be authentic.
Right. Because I think a lot of us think we have to be cheery. We have to be a certain persona on stage. And like to me, if you're having a bad day, go up there grumpy. Go up there whatever state you're in. Don't think for years I was a very silly comic and felt like I gotta be this silly guy, which I am, but I'm everything. I'm also angry. I'm also, and use it all. And to me, though, are most authentic when we're really coming from what we're most passionate about. So just talk about, when you're authentic, it's much more interesting.
And nobody can steal it and deliver it like you do.
Right. Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, well, I don't know that. Well, I don't know what made me ask you about being authentic. But I think what a lot of us do is we think this is what a comic does versus what is it I do. You know, I want to be Paul Lyons up there. I don't want to be a comic. I want to be Paul Lyons who's funny. Whereas normally we think, oh, I'm going to be a comic, so I'm going to rattle off jokes, which, when that's you, that's great. But, so to really not think of it in terms of I'm a comic, this is me. This is what I find funny. This is what I'm going to share. This is me entertaining myself.
Now when I go on stage, I always remember to really be in touch with, when I'm writing, I won't write it if it isn't something I'm connected and feel strongly about that's in line with who I authentically am. So you really saved my comedy life. I feel like you just shot it to the moon for me, where I would have struggled for years if I'd never heard that.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
I mean, I'm still struggling. Don't get me wrong. It's a different kind of better struggle.
It's the authentic struggle.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Now people tell me that I am. No, I suck better. So that's good.
Yes. Yeah.
So tell me some of the greatest things you've gotten to do in your comedy life.
Well, that's a very good question. Definitely traveling. I mean, I love traveling. So being able to go to Alaska about 36 times is one of the highlights. I just absolutely love Alaska. I could live there in the summer. Going to Hawaii about 4 times. Going over to Europe. So the places that I've gotten to have been great, and the experience of doing it's so healing to do stand up and be up there, and because quite often for myself, I'm not one of these comics that's on all the time. So before I go on stage, sometimes I wonder, like, I don't feel funny, but I go up there and I just take where I'm at, and it just comes. I mean, there's an audience there that wants to laugh. To me, everyone says, "Oh, it must be hard to make people laugh." I feel, who doesn't want to laugh? You're not making anybody laugh. You're letting them laugh. It says comedy club right there. They have permission to laugh. They don't have that at work, So you're already ahead of the game. People are there. It's already suggested to them that they're going to laugh. So to me, that's part of the journey. And the other thing is, I've had some very quiet audiences too, which people would call bombing. But to me, the way I look at it is, they're having a very good time at their level. They might be keeping it a secret, but they are having a very good time.
Nobody's told their face.
Yes. Yeah.
So have you had a heckler or seen a heckler you'll never forget that was funny or weird? Weird, hard, stupid, scary, like Vince Valentine says.
Right. Well, I don't remember what he was doing, but this is the worst time to have a heckler when you're pretty much bombing to begin with. When you don't have the crowd on your side and a guy is being nasty. Normally, when you have a nasty heckler and you come back at him with something, the crowd applauds and hey. But when the whole crowd isn't really with you, it doesn't work. But this one guy, it was a small crowd. It was the Penny Arcade in West Orange, New Jersey, and normally a very nice club, but they weren't giving me much. And this guy up front kept commenting on stuff, and it pissed me off so much. I had a glass of water, and I threw it in his face. Maybe I said, have some water on me. I don't know what I said, but that was That was the only time I've really lost it on stage.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's terrible when people heckle, and I get it. Some people just cannot keep their trap shut, when there's 1 millisecond of silence, they have to pipe up. But it can derail a comic. It can make you lose your train of thought and your mojo, and
Right. Yeah. Don't want to lose your mojo.
At my level of comedy, I use hecklers to help me elevate my steps. That's where I'm at. It's working.
Yeah.
Take their material and run with it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you've performed all over the country and the world, and you've done Ventura Harbor Comedy Club. I know that you happen to really love that venue.
Yes.
And you've spoken very fondly of it over the time I've known you, as well as what was that city we just talked? Laughlin. You love going to Laughlin. What are some other places people wouldn't know that Paul Lyons likes to perform in?
Doylestown, PA, place called Poco's.
Okay.
It's fits about 120 people. It's above at a Mexican restaurant, and the room just rocks when you get 100 people in there. It's smart, great people. So that's in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. That's a room I love. The Sonny's in Florida, I just love because of the people who own it. It's just run really well. And now with the
Sarnies,
Sonny's, and now with the shelter in place in the pandemic, they've turned their parking lot into a drive-in comedy theater. So people get fed in their cars, and they see the screen or the stage of the comic and hear them. So, yeah, there's places in Florida that I like. Vero Beach, that's fantastic. And let's see, is there any place else?
How about Europe? What's a good place in Europe, or when I know you've done cruise ship comedy? What's a city where everybody gets really wild when they get there and the comedy goes better because you're near a different city? Does that ever happen?
No, because I've only performed once in Paris, and that was just an open mic thing, and it was fine, but there was 20 people, and it was nice, and luckily they spoke English, but I don't know. My favorite country is Ireland. I would love to perform over there, but I haven't been in a club there. Yeah. But I think they're very smart people and great and just generous, and so I'd love to perform there.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your book, Carpe Diem Mañana.
Carpe Diem Mañana.
Tell me the premise and the thought behind the muse of doing it.
It's all about finding the joy in every moment and how I don't do that. So, constantly reconnecting with my true self, with the joy of the moment rather than trying to get ahead, trying to, seek results and seeking joy. So it's really about, and also a lot of it has to do with understanding, how I felt about my dad when I was younger, and now coming to understand him and really appreciate him. So they're very much like stories like Chicken Soup for the Soul, and I've written stories for them. So it's I think it's humorous and also very deep and inspiring.
I loved it. I read it. I underlined everything that was important, and almost the whole book was underlined.
Well, yeah,
That good. And I hate to read.
yeah.
That should tell you something.
Yeah.
Do you have another book you're planning or working on?
Uh, I'm I'm not sure what my next. I might start writing screenplays. I think that's where my passion is now. So
Super.
yeah, yeah.
What about classes? I know you're a big learner, an absorber of information. Are you presently in classes or teaching classes? I mean, not this minute during the pandemic, but in your life these days.
Uh, no, I'm not. But the one thing I want to do is be a mentor. Uh, you know, to me, everything that's going on with the racism, to me, everyone thinks politically. What do I want to do? And all of that is action in the future. And I thought the one thing that would mean a lot to me is mentoring either an inner city youth just coming out of foster care at the age of 18, or someone coming out of prison who needs a mentor, not just a
Wonderful.
probation officer, but a mentor. So I want to do a one-on-one. That's what I like the best, one-on-one. So that's what I plan on doing.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that came out of everything that's happened in recent weeks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So I had one thing that I thought that I could do, because I can't fix all of racism as one person. But I remember my daughter went to a 98% minority Black school in Seattle, and she went to the library because she didn't know how to relate to people of color. And she got a book about history, and it used the N-word incorrectly in the book. So she literally went and found an inappropriate phraseology at the school library. So what I want to do is I want to write to all the libraries and see that they have the right information in their libraries. That'll be my,
Right.
that's all.
Yes. Right. Find the five best books that show uh, how racism has prevailed for 400 years. Yeah. And on all levels. So there must be books out there for kids that are 11, kids are 14. So
Thank you. Once again,
yeah.
you're just a natural mentor. You're mentoring me right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the pandemic's going to lift. And what's your first thing on your agenda that you want to accomplish in comedy or personally?
Well, as you know, in high school, my girlfriend got pregnant. We put the boy up for adoption. Well, 6 months ago, we got in touch with each other through 23andMe. So in 2 weeks, we're going to meet up for the first time in person. We've been emailing back and forth, but now we're going to meet up in person in 2 weeks. So that's the first thing I'm going to do.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm all for that.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no better drug than, like we can hold on to resentments and rationalize having relationships at a distance, but there's no better drug than forgiveness.
Yeah.
So that's a real cool thing that's happening for you. I'm so excited.
Well, thank you. I'll let you know all about it.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
So I thank you for the interview. What would you like, Paul, to tell people how not to be Meshuggah right now for the rest of the pandemic? How can we keep our head on straight?
Get a good book, relax, and get a good book and get inspired. Carpe diem manana.
Carpe diem mañana.
Yeah. It's my spiritual journey from insecurity to self-pity. But yeah, it's a very inspiring book, and yes, it will change your life, hopefully for the better. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the interview. I love you to pieces.
I love you, Linda. Thank you so much.
Hugs.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Take care. I'm going to go somewhere in the ether now.
And also your father, please give him my very best and tell him every time you see him, I want you to say thank you for your service.
He wears his hat everywhere.
Yes,
he loves it. He loves it. Yeah.
I was going to ask. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. See ya.
Love you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Everybody's talking.